have little to no experience with the first Rage. I have about 2 hours on it, last played like 5 years ago. I remember a lot of Brown, and I think I immediately quit because it didn't engage me very much. To the surprise of everyone, last year we got a teaser trailer set to Andrew WK's Ready to Die in a semi-live action set piece telling everyone that Rage has returned and it's gonna be wacky. In practice, it's just a very colorful shooter. A fairly decent one, but it lacks the general humor that Borderlands has, which yields a common comparison. Indeed, Rage 2 feels like a union between Mad Max, from the driving, Borderlands, the environment, and Doom, the gunplay. This review will have several comparisons to all three, but I'll try to explain the system so my viewers won't require previous knowledge of all those other games. Though I do have Let's Plays on all of those, so go watch them. I'll start with the game's main selling point: the zany gunplay and abilities. You play as Walker. The gender is your choice, but you cannot customize them, as they are both essentially exist in this universe. So they're their own people, basically. You are some kind of a military trainee in a fairly safe and stable stronghold that gets annihilated in the first 15 minutes of the game by an organization called the Authority, which I believe were the same enemies in the first game. You put on a suit of armor of a now extinct sect of Rangers, you being the last one during an impromptu promotion. This armor facilitates all of your guns and abilities. Even the guns are acquired through the arcs dotted around the land that are specifically designed for Rangers and their suits. So right off the bat, you're more or less equipped in every bandit in the whole wasteland. Other than some odd key bindings to start with, the abilities and guns feel very good. One of the first that you acquire is eminently useful, and it was designed to shatter armor of the enemies, and indeed the ability is called Shatter. Go figure. This is very satisfying as you play through the game. Whether you use that ability or shoot it all off, you can actually see an enemy's armor plating fly off as you whittle them down. It's a good signifier as any that they're ready to be killed outright. Considering the game shares much more with Doom than with Borderlands, enemies are not at all bullet sponges. Most enemies can be taken out in just a couple shots or a single headshot. The armor is what makes them spongy, and you are very quickly given tools to deal with it. Other abilities include a bullet barrier, a ground slam, a super sprint, a dash, a vortex that pulls enemies in and detonates, an overdrive, and a few others. Considering that Doom developers have worked on this is not a cover shooter. Everything is designed to keep you moving and shooting, and the set of abilities you acquire serve this goal incredibly well, and the gunplay is very fun. However, like Mad Max, which is from Avalanche Studios, and they also served as developers here, strongholds don't tend to respawn, which leaves my usual fare of sandboxing starting to dry up just 11 hours into the game. I'm starting to get the feeling that the game is rather short, and I wish it took a similar idea from recent Far Cry games to reset the strongholds, maybe add some extra difficulty to it, and let us play through it all again. I do not believe there is a New Game Plus at this time, so when I'm done, I'm done. This is essentially a 20 to 30 hour game, and it feels like it could use more. So take that as you will. Everything can be upgraded as well, Doom style. This is not Borderlands, and you'll be staring at the same 10 guns throughout the experience. 2 of them are from DLC and can't be upgraded, and you can change the rest of their capabilities, like you can level them up and they get damage and handling, mag sizes, reload speeds, and so on. They function differently as you see fit, but I find myself defaulting to the assault rifle you acquire, upgradable with armor-piercing rounds, which really tear through most enemies. Returning from Mad Max are the convoys, one of my favorite mechanics from that game. There were only a handful there, and this game serves many more, and they're certainly more engaging in their own way here. They boast an entire caravan with a war rig-like truck that serves as its own boss, complete with a health bar, where you must wipe out the allies and then hit weak points that pop out periodically. I'm not sure if they constantly spawn or are as temporary as strongholds, but I do enjoy them. So the gunplay is good, the environment is interesting to look at. There's plenty of lights, colorful characters, and even trees and wildlife in certain zones. The writing leaves something to be desired, though. For example, you get a Borderlands-y splash screen introducing a few characters, one of which enjoys manipulating others and once tortured a guy just to get his approval. Meeting him just screamed, "This guy's going to betray the fuck out of you," so sure enough. So let's move on to some points I have mixed feelings about. As I alluded to with the guns, this isn't really a loot and shooter, it's just kind of a shooter. Everywhere there are chests to get Feltrite, the main game's, the upgrades, I'm stumbling over my words here, the main upgrade currency. You also get money, which helps you buy upgrades outright, as well as ammo for you and your vehicle. There's even an upgrade just to help you triangulate and find those chests so you don't abandon every stronghold at 3 out of 4 chests found because it's hiding in a tiny alcove somewhere. But sometimes I'll skip it entirely anyway because it kills too much time when you're running around for a while. The gameplay encourages constant moving, shooting, and ground slamming, but after a while you actually just kind of run out of things to do all that with. To the game's credit, it doesn't make Anthem's mistake of go here, kill everything. Sometimes you defend a pylon, sometimes you shoot fuel tanks, sometimes you destroy a power solo, all of which involves a lot of shooting, but none of this respawns or comes back. In relation, the map does feel a bit small. After gaining reputation with a certain main character, you're awarded the Icarus, which is a flight vehicle. No weapon capabilities, and it's made out of paper, but it's very useful for transit. I'd almost recommend not using it at all, but it does help nab a few points of interest that you would not necessarily drive past on wheels, as some things you need to actively search for rather than drive by. As I said before, after 11 hours, it feels as though I've completed most of the side stuff already. Side missions can be picked up in towns, but they're much simpler and there's not a lot of incentive to do them. The game is also very buggy. I suffer a crash to desktop, no error message or anything, every couple of hours. Much more often the game will freeze on me for an extended period of time, and this can last as little as like 7 to 10 seconds to 45 seconds or a minute long before the game actually kind of wakes up and comes back to me. I was also on a clear out the bandits objective, and some of the enemies were clipped into the building. Thankfully, the Shatter ability I mentioned earlier has some AoE capabilities, and it got through the wall and I killed him eventually. So those are some of the main issues I've come across bug-wise, but if you read around in other reviews and stuff, you'll no doubt come across more. These aren't the usual funny, hey look, the dragons are flying backwards that Bethesda bugs tend to be. These are actually annoying and game-breaking in some cases, and I've actually heard of people's saves being corrupted over it. Speaking of Bethesda, what happened to them? I feel like it's just been a couple of years since they were gaining the gaming community's golden boy. Like, it really went all downhill with Fallout 76, which I'm still waiting on single-player and modding capabilities before I start playing it. And they never really recovered from all that. Their new fare of microtransactions are here, and I don't normally have a hate-on for cosmetic shops like the community as a whole does, but in Rage 2, it's particularly pointless. It has some gun skins, but for all of which can be, so far, all of them can be acquired in the game. The golden skins are $10,000 in certain shops, which is a lot, mind you. 10,000 can go quite a ways here. And the other ones can be acquired by farming the Mutant Bash TV enough. I enjoy the Mutant Killing Arena, but I find it far too damn easy, and it really needs like extra difficulties attached to it. Those skins cost about 2,500 Mutant Bash TV tokens, and you can get around 1,500 every run. And considering how easy it is in its current form, I earned most of those skins in like an hour. I skip the ones of the guns I don't use that often. Now to get to some of the things I actively hate. I don't like the driving. Not nearly as much as Mad Max anyway. The convoys are indeed still fun in their own way, and they're a little bit more rewarding than Max's were. They give you auto parts where you can upgrade your Phoenix. To Max's credit, that entire game was built around the car being a major mechanic, and hell, even the plot point was Max's entire motivation. In Rage 2, it's more of a sideshow. The cars don't feel like they have much weight to them, at least not until you spin them out and try to push yourself out of a ditch, which I often do. And when I was given the Flying Icarus, I felt little point in returning to the sassy AI that hosts the Phoenix. And that's, in fact, the only car you can upgrade and customize. To wit, I actually despise the driving in certain contexts. Early in the story, you have to impress someone enough to enter his suite. To do so, you must play through the Mutant Bash TV, which is fun but easy, and a race. You enter the race, and the NPC tells you that you're starting off on the bottom. Now, in other games, this means they usually give you idiots for AI. I remember one of the first races in Grand Theft Auto was laughable, and even Mad Max, their one main race in the story, was actually just kind of a deathmatch with a 6-minute timer. The newbie race in Rage 2 actually made me rage quit the night the game was released. They give you their own car, and every other racer has the same ones, and they actually match your speed. At any given point, I always had 2 to 4 of the other races ahead of me at all times. And you know what bots and AI don't do? They don't make mistakes. They don't spin out, they never rammed each other, or they never hit a wall unless you yourself did all of that to them. And that's actually what caused me to rage quit. I was trying to ram them off the road and I would spin out instantly. After getting a night's sleep and 3 tries into the morning later, my only strategy was to ignore all the other drivers and concentrate harder than I ever have in a game. I basically had to do a perfect run, not hitting anything. I did so well and almost lost the entire race to one single spin out near the end of the track. When I won, I could hear 1 or 2 car engines right behind me. They never lost traction as I did, and I just feel that's garbage. I'm just not a general race player. I'm not. I don't like racing. I hate it, and I do not look forward to dealing with this required mission in future playthroughs. And by the way, that race is required to unlock an entire upgrade tree, so that's cool. One final point of annoyance before I summarize my thoughts ultimately. This one is much more minor, but it actually irritates me more than the driving does, because this one's a constant threat. Every time you clear an objective, no matter how quick or small, you actually get an unskippable pop-up announcing your victory and rewards, as well as the reputation gain. This could have so easily been put on the side like they do the radio-bound dialogues. Instead, it completely stops the show, and I find myself slamming the enter key so I can skip it the very split second it allows me to do so. In a game that wants you to keep moving in a very successful and fun way, this thing is a complete, like I said, showstopper, and I don't know how their beta testers weren't screaming, "Come on, let me play," constantly. I don't know how that got past them. Ultimately, I do feel like there's a good game here. The cosmetic store is easily ignored, and beyond that, you have to deal with some bugs, janky driving, and the bullshit objective complete pop-ups. If you can deal with all that, you're left with some excellent gunplay and skillfully crafted environments. It's not as long as I had hoped, but I really expected more to justify an $80 pre-order, but I have not at all hated the experience.